Welcome back to the Onshape series. I am Mr. Redmond, and today we're going to work on a selfie stick assembly. Now, all of these parts live inside of this assembly right here. Um, and there's also the part studios that you can check out right here. All the parts are editable if you wanted to play with them, but you shouldn't do that now. We also have a thumb screw part in a part studio that we need to import into our assembly. So we're going to slowly put this together, um, and we will try and make this selfie stick parts into one selfie stick assembly. This is going to take a while, so be patient, hit pause whenever you need to, and try and do exactly what I do when it's correct. Now, the first thing we need to do when we're doing an assembly here is we need to uh, take our main part and we need to fix it in place. And our main part is going to be this outer sleeve right here. So I'm going to click on it. And what you should do is right click on your main part, the outer sleeve, and then we're going to fix it in place right here. Click the fix button. And now this part can no longer move. You see the little red cross thing shows up, says nope, can't do it, can't move it, it's fixed. Now everything else is going to go into and around and attached to this main outer portion. We should then put this part now into this one. So this inner rod goes into the outer sleeve here. Um, and I believe the easiest way to do this is with a slider mate up here. So we're going to choose slider mate in our options, our mate options. Click on it. And I'm going to choose the innermost circle here. You're going to zoom in. You're going to choose the innermost circle. And I believe you're going to want it. It's hard to tell. We'll just click there. And now we want to put in there the bottom of the rod here. And I hope we are now in the right place. Yeah, check that out. We'll click the check right here and then close that right there. So now we have our first part inserted. It is the rod and the inner sleeve. Now, we haven't put any constraints on this as far as its motion is concerned. It can't move side to side, but it can move up and down. And it can go too far that way, and it can go too far that way. They're really just locked in place on this one axis. So we should put in some constraints because we don't want it to be able to go too far and in either direction. So we're going to double click on the slider here and we're going to add some limits in. Let's say the minimum will be 0. Can't get smaller than 0. And then the maximum, put in, say, 300 millimeters. I'm in millimeters. I don't know if you are as well. If you're not, you can always go up and change what units you're in the menu, in the workspace units, like normal. So let's see if that works. Let's see. This is a guess. So I'm going to click check and see if that's good enough. So try and move it down. It's not working. That goes up that way, but that's as far down as it goes. So we were going to want to reverse those limits, turns out. So we'll do 300 up top. We'll do 0 on the bottom. Doesn't like that at all either. Maybe negative 300? Try that. So yeah, check that out. Now it goes all the way down there, and it won't go any further than that. Look at that. Now we have a selfie stick with a rod that goes up and down with a limit. Cool. So if you reference the assembly document in Blend, you'll see the next part to go on is this uh, sort of Y-shaped component here. So this is going to attach into that peg right here. The easiest way to do this one is a fasten. So we will fasten this outer zone here. And we'll click on the center of it. And we want to put that on this portion here. Not the peg. We want to put it on this flat portion there. And it sits in a very strange way. So let's reverse it. This will reverse the primary axis, and now it sits on top. Perfect, just like that. We'll click the green check, and then we'll click the red X. And now we have these two parts together, and they still move up and down, and this one does nothing. It only goes up and down. Cool. Okay, now we'll get to the first hard one. Ooh, you know what we need? We need that extra part that we haven't put in here yet. So let's put in that part. We're going to insert our little thumb screw from our different part studio. So here's the entire part studio from the selfie stick that was already put into your assembly. This time we need to put in this thumb screw right here. So I'm just going to click on it, place it right there, and hit the green check, and we're good. So the thumb screw is going to need to go into the hole here. I think it should probably have threads in it, but it doesn't. So the thumb screw is going to go in there. And since this is a cylinder shape and this is a cylinder shape, we're going to do the a cylinder there, cylinder mate. So we will take cylinder here. We're going to take the bottom of this. You zoom in here, you get that. We're going to put it into here. I'm going to try and zoom into the bottom here. I think that'll do it. And of course it's backwards, so we'll have to hit this, flip the primary axis, and click the green check, and the red X. I think that's good. Let's check it out. So the this screw will go in and out. Which is pretty cool, but it won't go any further. Oh, it will. Okay. So we'll probably have to put some limits on that in a moment of some kind. But let's not do that quite yet. Because I'm going to pull it out here a little bit, because we will then put the next portion in. Well, let's put those limits on. Let's see what those limits look like. Double click on the cylinder, put on some limits. Put maybe a 0 here. Let's see if that'll do it. Click the check. And yep, it's the opposite way. Cool. So we're going to double click on the cylinder again. delete that one and put a 0 on the maximum. See if that works. So now we drag it out, and it will drag out, but it won't go any further than that. There we go. So strange. It kind of seems like it should be the opposite, but the maximum is now 0, and it still rotates, which is fun. We will. Cool. So we're going to stick it out here just a little bit because we need to put in the next piece, which this is going to go through. This one is very, very tricky, and the reason is there's this circular space on the underneath here, and these flat areas on the side, and a circular space here and flat areas on the side. These two parts, there is quite a lot of tolerance in between them, and so we can't mate them together. We can't do a nice fasten. It doesn't have a place for it to click in. But what we can do is we can do a planar mate, which is not a very good way to do this. We do a planar mate, and we take this face here. We're going to mate it to this face here, just like that. We click the check on the solve, whatever that does. And now we need to offset it. Wonder if we rotate this. So that won't do anything. It's not doing anything either. So we're going to now offset this by a few millimeters. Let's see what happens when we put in 10. Nothing. How bizarre. Well, this one's not working. So I'm going to click the check, see how it moves. So it kind of moves wherever it wants. And that's not exactly what we want. So what we'll do is we're going to delete this one. We're going to try it again. Delete that. Move it out of the way. And we'll try another planar again. So I imagine what happened is something strange. Okay, so what I did was I flipped it and then I rotated it a few times until it was in the correct spot. And if I hit check, you'll see that that looks a lot better than it did before. But there is still quite a lot of space in between on this side, but no space here. So we're going to want to put that more in the middle. So we will close that. Why is that one not working? Oh, so we're going to delete that. So now we have the planar one. This part is mated to this part. The T is mated to the Y, but we want to do an offset. So we want to put this more in the middle. So we'll add in an offset here of the Z. Let's see what 1 millimeter is going to do. And see that moved in the wrong direction. So we'll do -1 millimeter and see what that does. That went a little bit too far. So it looks like we're going to need to cut that in half. So we'll do -0.5 millimeters. And that looks pretty good. Click off. I'll click the check. And not bad. Not bad at all. Now, if I start wiggling that around, it's going to go all over the place. So because it's just a planar mate, and planar mates are have the most wiggle room. They have the fewest degrees of freedom have been manipulated. So what we're going to want to do now is actually add a slider mate to this part. Sounds interesting and weird, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a slider mate on the screw and apply it to the inside of the T part here. So check this out. We'll do slider here. We'll zoom in, try and get the inner circle here. There we go. Now we'll apply it to the screw. Which part of the screw? Let's try that one. And maybe. Okay, so let's see if that works. So it moved over in a strange way, but I think it was just a way for you to see inside a little bit better. But if we wiggle this around, you see it no longer allows you to move it off out of place. Now it's a slider that's now locked in place the with this thumb screw. I think it's kind of a cheat. I don't know if this is technically the correct way to do this, but at the moment it's working, and that's kind of the whole point of assemblies is to make it look like it works. So this still moves up and down, and this can still come in and out. That's okay. Okay. So let's keep putting this together. And I'm gonna undo that because now I want to be able to get to the top. So there are a few parts left to put together. We have this peg that sits on the top here, and then this goes on top of that, and then this goes on top of that. It's just kind of a stack of more parts. Um, so we need to put this peg over here onto the T part of the selfie stick. There's no real good way to do this, so we're going to do something similar to T because there's a lot of tolerance here, and I'm not sure why. So we're going to do a planar mate. We're going to use the bottom plane of the peg, and we're going to put it onto the top uh, plane right here. And it's going to sit there, and it's going to look real nice. But just like before, a quick X there. It's a planar mate, so there's very few degrees of freedom that have been reduced, so it still moves around as much as it wants, which is not what we want. So we'll undo that. Um, I'm going to add some limits, of course. Adding limits to this is really a great way to make things move around a lot less. Um, I'm going to add zeros to this. So that instead of no minimum and no maximum for the X and Y direction, we're going to add 0, 0, 0, and 0. This is another way to sort of work around this to keep that and remove some of the degrees of freedom mechanically instead of using the appropriate mates. Now it is stuck on there because I said you shouldn't be able to move. Again, not the most elegant solution, but it works right now. Okay, so we have a few things left to do. Um, we have this part here, which kind of just locks. I think mechanically it's supposed to lock the pin in place. It's a little interesting, but it's the exact same size as this T part. So we're going to do two mates here. We're going to do a cylinder mate and a planar mate. Cylinder mate, make sure that this is in the correct orientation right on top of there. And then the planar mate is going to lock the rest of the degrees of freedom in. So we'll take a cylinder mate here and we will orbit a little bit. We will choose the very top of the pin. And then we're going to choose the center hole of this block here. That should have moved right into place. Looking good. That looks fine. It's not in the exact right location, but we can manipulate that here in a moment. It's a cylinder mate, so this should still be able to move around a whole lot. Yep, make that go away. Spins and it goes up and down. So we're going to want to lock this surface in on top of that surface. So we're going to use a planer mate for that. Mate those two planes. So we'll get underneath, click on this. We'll lock that into this plane here. Having a mouse and being able to orbit is critical here. Click there and click the green check. Close that one. Cool. So look how fancy that's looking. Everything is locked in place. I can move the whole thing up and down. It still wiggles around. Nice. Okay. So looks like it's a little off, but it doesn't look too bad. I wonder if we can do a parallel mate. Where's that one? Right here. That and that. Nope. That's not what we want. Undo that. Any rate, final part is getting this locked in place on top of that. Um, Something funny is going to happen because you've been looking at these parts and it looks like one object. However, it's two. I thought it was one object the entire time. So let's lock this one in place onto this real quick. It's pretty easily. We're going to do two cylinder mates here. Choose. Where to go? Here we go. Choose this top here. Put it on the bottom there. That moves it into place. Great. We're going to do another cylinder mate real quick. Move this up a little bit. Because it can still move in a couple directions, we don't want it to. We're going to mate this one here to this one here. And there we go. Close that and close that. Now, what we have is this piece is now locked in place, kinda. Enough, I suppose. So, from what I can tell, we're going to do a pretty similar job that we did with this plate on top of the T slot, which is a cylinder mate and then a planer mate. Very similar as what we did before. So let's do another cylinder mate. We'll get the bottom here, not the very top, I think the bottom. Mated with the top of the peg. Just like that. And it's upside down, and that thing flew off. Hopefully this will solve. Let's flip it, see if that helps. There we go. There we go. Click check, and we're good. Why in the world is this over here? Make that go away. I have no idea. How bizarre. So let's do a plain. Let's try and get this looking a little bit more normal before we solve this one. We'll do a planar mate of this surface. Onto this surface. Click the check. Looking fine. All right. Now, how do we get this in the correct location? Let's try this. So let's delete cylinder 4. It should now be free to move. It's not. And let's try and, I suppose, let's try and mate those cylinders back together. Do a cylinder mate on the top of here and find the bottom of that little handle. Whoop, that seemed to do it. How strange. Okay, click the X there, and we have a mostly assembled selfie stick. This moves up and down. That stays there. I wonder if we pull that apart, we can do a planar mate on here and here. That'll help. And it does. Look at that. So this can rotate a little too much. But hey, it's a selfie stick. These things are supposed to be able to come apart a little bit. And you can play with this as much as you'd like and make this just kind of work. Doesn't like that. At any rate, we have a selfie stick. Uh, take a picture of this and submit it on Blend. Thanks for watching and playing along, and good luck assembling. It's a interesting part of 3D design and easily one of the more complicated parts. It's a big puzzle, and so any of these can be changed and manipulated to make to serve you better if you need to. But putting in limits is a easy way to work around some of the problems you might be having. And again, it's going to be trial and error most of the time. Okay, thanks for watching.